Kapow. All right, we should be live. Please let me know if otherwise, because technology is being a butt today.
I don't see it yet. There we go. It's live.
Okay. It's live.
Oh, I just realized that means all the
Oh god. Oh god. Oh god. Okay.
Ooh. Oh, did you forget to mute it?
Yes.
So I do that all the time whenever I pull it up, and I'm like, what's my voice like? I don't like it.
Zoom immediately like automatically goes to my headphones, but if I don't set it in my settings, then my desktop audio does not go to my headphones because they're plugged into my microphone. So
fun.
All right.
OBS and I will be having some words later.
Okay, so we're not streaming?
We are.
Oh, we are. Okay. Oh, but you're not recording.
I am just using a CPU intensive one. So
okay.
It'll be a bit chuggy on my end, but it's fine.
All right. Share.
Yep. All right. Some serious something from Sam. Some serious decorating is happening. Sure. Oh, nice. Discord saved the messages I didn't say or didn't send. That's nice.
Thanks, Discord.
Yeah. You're a real bro. What?
Okay.
My bro Discord.
Okay. We ready, everybody?
Born ready.
Damn. Greetings and welcome to episode 79 of Cat Fyx podcast. All your hottest source for the Cats musical movie news. Casting director Alex Jelena joins us today.
I would totally be Mr. Mistopheles.
All right. And costume designer Patrick Cotter.
We're not going to talk about cats.
And production assistant Allison.
Yeah, we are going to talk about cats, and I would totally be Skimbleshanks, the railway cat.
Okay, add the British Grand Prix to my list of things to talk about, Alex. 52 laps. Strap in.
Oh, wait, no, sorry. I read off the wrong script. This is the Gaming Fyx podcast where...
Not the Cats Fix podcast where we just talk about cats.
There we go.
No,
I'm really glad I have that as a threat now. Every 2 weeks I can talk about a different Grand Prix.
Yeah. Lap by lap analysis.
Yes.
You know, it's whatever goes to your... flights your fancy, totes your goat.
God,
yeah, that's what...
I don't think I've ever heard that before.
Yeah, that's whatever expression. Totes your goat.
I thought you said it coats your goat, not.
Oh, you know, hey, maybe it's cold. Maybe your goat needs a coat. I don't know. Just don't. Yeah, I don't know. Video games. Dear. That's what this podcast is. I think that's theoretically. And we've been playing them. I think.
Yeah. Mostly.
A lot of
sources say just in video games. Allison's been playing a new video game.
Yeah. Is that a segue?
Is it? I don't know. Pat's been playing video games.
Oh no, you're fucking me up over here.
Dude, nobody wants it. No, it's a hot.
I mean, I'll talk about it, but I thought you were going around the room.
I was so confused.
The worst game of hot potato that's ever been played.
So, Anjay, what games have you been playing?
Oh God,
games. There's only one game.
All right, what is that?
Game.
Why don't you talk about your game?
Final Fantasy XIV. I have done nothing for the last 2 days except play Final Fantasy XIV, and it's been a good time.
The worst game ever made.
Well, from an infrastructure standpoint, totally.
Yeah. But even then, it's better than a lot of games. But yeah,
what game it's better than?
Mordhau.
From a server infrastructure perspective, I don't know that I agree.
I don't spend a lot of time in server infrastructure.
From a paying their workers and also not treating people like garbage perspective, definitely.
Can you run around with a loot that's playing the Doom theme?
There have actually been some things that I read that were like, oh my god, similar to, like, not as awful as the Mordhau stuff, but anyway.
So I think if people went down the rabbit hole of do developers pay their localizers?
Oh no, not even that. It was like, oh, we won't make like wedding ceremony like outfits gender neutral because it'll upset the bigots.
Oh,
in Final Fantasy?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah.
Japan.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, have you seen
like that wasn't explicitly
the bunny people?
That was I'm playing a bunny person.
So you've seen a lot of bunny ass.
But like, you know, you get to level 5 when you start getting new gear, and then that butt's covered up. Like, it doesn't last that long.
Sure, but it doesn't change the fact that when you spawn,
if you play Final Fantasy 12, you see a lot more bunny ass.
Sure. Oh, I'm not suggesting that other games aren't worse.
Yeah.
About the bunny ass, but
name 10 games this year with
I cannot
more bunny ass.
I cannot.
So we've gone from talking about cats to bunny ass.
At least the bunny ass is in a video game.
I was just saying earlier this week that I wish that we still had tie-in video games to, like, console games to movies, so that we could see what Cats 2019 the video game would be.
I think I would have to not be on the podcast for a couple months.
Oh, see, because I would buy that video game.
I know. That's why I would have to not be on the podcast for a couple months.
Oh, man. Well,
I don't think I could deal with the emotional labor.
You know what? I bet it looks a lot like Final Fantasy XIV because Pat's playing a cat person.
I am playing a masculine, like, angry, like, he has an eye patch.
He's
like
a big old putty tat.
It's a different thing than Cats the Musical.
It sounds like Idris Elba and Cats the Musical.
Yeah, I was
you
gonna
don't know
say.
what's in that expansion stuff.
If the Cats movie was a movie about, like, fighting monsters and, like, rescuing marketplaces from, like, bandits.
Who's to say it's not? You don't know.
I do, actually. I'm aware of the plot of Cats.
I mean, they could have updated it for the movie. I don't know. They're like, we need to give it a little bit something. Like, let's have them be saving marketplaces and fighting monsters. Like,
And then coming in 2022, they're going to do a Phantom of the Opera movie, and it's going to be Saw.
I'm just saying, there's a lot of content in that DLC, and I don't know. Anyway, I am not playing the DLC yet. I am like, I don't even, like, halfway through the story, maybe.
I think that's about right. You said you're at level 30.
Yeah, at level 30. I've got 3 of the 6 crystals that you're supposed to collect. I've got a chocobo. I think working on getting it so it'll, like, fight with me, because, like, around level 30 is you get the ability to turn your chocobo into, like, a partner that will fight with you. So yeah, I'm playing one of the new races, the Vieira, which are the bunny people. If you've played Final Fantasy XII, you might remember Fran, who was, like, the bunny lady. And I'm playing a gladiator at the moment, which is like a tank class, because if you play DPS, it takes forever to find like instances to go, like, to party up with.
Yeah.
But
I'm also playing gladiator.
Yeah, but one of the unfortunate things is in the Deep Croft, which is like the second instance dungeon, I had to wait like an hour to get in. And like there were literally just like 6 people at a time, 6 or more people standing in front of the instance, like waiting, like queuing up and just waiting, like, to get in. But
Yeah,
no one could get in.
So it's probably a server thing, right?
It was. But it was only with this instance.
Yeah.
Because, like, I did the one before, it took like 5 minutes. The one after, which I did like immediately after, 5 minutes. I used my free company to get, like, which is like a clan or guild for those who don't know. I messaged my free company. I was like, yo, what's up with this wait time? Like, oh, well, I'll help you out. And I got a party together, and it still took like 5 minutes for the instance to like generate and like give us space to go do the thing.
Yeah.
Which was just like bonkers.
When that game first relaunched, there were login queues of like, this is like in 2014 or whatever, but there were login queues of like 100,000 people, and you would have to wait for like 3 to 4 hours to get in. And you had to do that because there was no login timeout. So once you were in, you could just sit. But it meant that since they weren't kicking people out who were AFK, you just had to sit in the queue. So it would be like if your computer crashed or something, or you had to shut it off for some reason, you would have to set up a 4-hour queue overnight. So then the next day you could play, and you'd just be sitting there AFK for the time that you're not in. It was very bad. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad I did not have to sit through that. But yeah, the game's pretty cool. It's like, it's nothing special so far. Like, I haven't seen like it's got the best story in games, which is, which is coming through in like the expansions, especially Shadowbringers. People are really into it. I'm seeing like the potential for like, okay, that maybe they do some cool stuff, but so far it's been a lot of like, run over here, there's a big bad. But it's definitely more story driven than like WoW, where like in WoW I'm just like, yep, okay, accept quest, whereas this one I'm actually like reading the dialogue and trying to follow what's going on.
I have heard people say that it is one of the best game stories in games now. Also say that the base game story is bad, which I don't agree that it's bad so far from what I've played. I have played in the past up to where you are. I think it's perfectly fine, but I also would say it's nothing special really. But I guess it gets significantly better as the expansion, as you go through the expansions. And
I'm looking forward to checking that new stuff out, and hopefully I can get there in the next 6 weeks or so while I'm on vacation. But the Fire Emblem's going to come, that's going to eat up time and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, I'm going to, at level 30, or once you get like the story missions up to level 30, you can that's kind of when you can start getting some new classes. So I'm going to try to change like I think it's a Dark Knight. Death Knight's Warcraft, so it's like a Dark Knight, which is another tank class. So I'm going to see what that's all about. But really, I just want to get to 60 so I can be a Gunbreaker.
Yeah, that's the class I want to play too.
Ill as shit.
Yep. Apparently, Gunbreaker is super broken right now. It's better at DPSing than DPS classes, and it's also
great.
But it's a nightmare for healers to deal with because your resource that you spend is your health. So like you have abilities where like you have one ability where you go down to 1 health, but for the next like 90 seconds you can't die. And so basically like, and then you get this huge damage boost for that 90 seconds. So like you like almost kill yourself, and then the healer in your group has to heal you back up over the next whatever time. I don't remember. 90 seconds,
90 seconds. Yeah.
They have to heal you.
Seems like a long time, but
to keep you from dying.
Hey, that's strats, and if you've got a team that can coordinate. I'm playing on PS4, and talking and coordinating with people is a pain in the ass. Just because type like if I hooked up my keyboard to the PS4, it'd probably be fine, but it's just annoying to like talk to people that way. But I bet if I did like remote play from my console to my PC, then it'd probably be easier. But yeah, Final Fantasy XIV, it's pretty good. The hype is deserved, I guess, maybe. I don't know. We'll see once I get to the expansion stuff. But I'm looking forward to it. Okay, now who's it going to be? Alex.
Yo.
I think you've played a game or like watched a show or read a book. I don't know.
So I got all of those if you want.
What
do you want?
Surprise us.
All right, let's talk about a new video game.
Okay.
That seems like the most important thing to get out of the way before we get to the bullshit.
You know what? If you sprinkle the bullshit throughout, then keep people like, they'll get to the
I have no bullshit. No bullshit this week.
Oh, wow.
All right. Well, then let's start with an older game, and then we'll get to the new one. You ready?
Okay. Sure.
I have been playing. Well, I've been going back and catching up on some games that I kind of missed earlier in the year because financial situation, etc., has changed. And one of the ones that I've been getting into and really enjoying so far is Baba Is You.
Yay!
So I am at, oh boy, so there's different islands that you go to, right, or whatever, that are kind of groups of things. I'm most of the way through the second one. So gonna be at that's the one with like the rivers that are melty and stuff like that.
I've still got like a level or two in, I think, that area that I'm like, I don't
Me
know.
too.
Yeah.
I need to get back in that game because I got like
turbo stuck.
Yep, me too.
Yeah, it's really clever, and some of the solutions that you have to come up with are really neat. And I don't know if there's always one solution or if there's multiple. Like if maybe there's sometimes that you can have kind of branching paths. Like obviously you can change like you is win and stuff like that, which it just feels like a cheat, and you're like, okay, well, whatever. But
early on, that's like, to show, oh, this is what you could do. But obviously the further in you get, the harder that stuff becomes. Yeah.
And so for our dear listeners, if you weren't there when we were talking about Baba Is You, it's basically a puzzle game where there is some logic that you have control over. So Baba is your character, and then there's a statement of is, and then is you. So that means you control Baba. Then you have things like win condition, flag is win. So you touch flag, you win. Wall is stop. You run into the wall, it stops you. Rock is push. You can push rocks. So you can change any of that logic. You can change wall is push. So now you can push the wall. And like change it so rock is win. So you touch the rock and you win. Stuff like that. So in that sense, this is a very programmer-y game.
Yep.
Looking at this, like I was able to think of everything. Like for work, I'm a programmer. So it like a lot of it just felt like coding challenges in a way, which might not sound appealing to some, but like I see it as just pure logic puzzle, like pure undistilled logic puzzle, and I think that's a really cool thing. And I think it executes on it really well, especially when it constrains you and then starts adding new things like and. Like Baba is you and wall or something like that. So then you can control like multiple things. But yeah, like I said, so far I'm in like the third group of levels, I guess. I'm not sure how else you would put it. It's pretty challenging. There's a couple where I've had to kind of step away from them and just be like, okay, obviously there's something I'm missing. Step away from it for like half an hour. Come back and be like, oh, okay, yeah, that's what it is. So and a lot of it is kind of trial and error, just poking around, see how you can break the systems and see if it will actually work in your favor. So yeah, sure. Really positive on it so far. It seems like it's actually a pretty long game. I'm not sure how many like levels or groups of levels there are, but like looking at the overworld map and knowing that once you get into an area, there's like upwards of 15 levels sometimes. Like that could be pretty long.
Yeah, there's a lot. And it seems like the developer is still like working on like adding stuff to the game.
Oh,
and
cool.
like,
I didn't know that.
If you follow them on Twitter, they will or like I think if you just follow like Baba Is You on Twitter, they actually post like some of the stuff they're working on and like show it off. And usually it's stuff like, oh, I wanted to do this, or I was just working on this, but it's not going to work because of XYZ reason. And they show you like what's happening and why it doesn't work.
That's cool.
So yeah, it's fun to see.
Yeah, that's super neat that they're kind of like keeping you involved with their development updates.
Yeah.
Like
I don't know. I don't know if they've like added anything, but it seems like they're still actively working on stuff.
Yeah, that's great. I don't know. Is there a level creator that you can like share levels with friends? Because that seems like it would be fucking awesome.
Demi, I've only played it on Switch, maybe.
Yeah, I haven't. I've only played it on Switch as well. So Steam Workshop, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm also playing it on Switch, so I also do not know. But that seems like it would be a really good game for that. Like, especially like if you kind of get Mario Maker level of just hell levels that your friends are making that have like one golden path and it's like obfuscated behind 7 billion things. Like, that'd be really interesting. But yeah, not too much more to say about it. I'm going to continue playing it throughout the week, and I think it's exceptionally good so far.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a cool thing.
All right, so do you guys? Well, let's move away from games. Let's talk about something that isn't a game.
Okay.
So we're back on that cat stuff, huh?
I watched all of Queer Eye season 4 today.
Wait, did you really? On TV for $10 a month.
Wait, did you actually watch all of Queer Eye?
Yeah,
wow,
I played Final Fantasy XIV literally all day.
Oh, okay, so it was kind of your podcast in the background kind of thing.
Yeah.
All right, so
in the foreground, but you know.
All right, I'm gonna power through some stuff because I have lots to talk about this week. It's been a busy week. Something I talked about very briefly last week, but kind of wanted to touch more on this week is Attack on Titan season 3. So
yeah, you mentioned that in passing last week, not on the podcast, but in conversations.
Yep, and we talked about it for like, let's call it a minute on the podcast last week, right at the very end. But I wanted to kind of step back and like give it some proper dues because holy crap, that third season is exceptionally good. And like I've just been thinking about it a lot, and I think at this point, it is a must-watch show for anyone who like cares even a little bit about anime, which is interesting to say because like I got into it around the time the first season was like midway through airing, which was probably when its popularity was at its like super height, and to watch that for whatever reason that first season is maybe the first anime to really break into the mainstream in a major way. Like you couldn't go to like a mall or whatever without seeing tons of like, you know, Colossal Titan faces in every shop or like t-shirts and stuff like that. It was interesting, but it like got a bunch of previously like non-anime fans interested in anime, which was neat. And I think that first season is pretty good, but it's not particularly great. Like it's kind of a roller coaster ride. It's like super action heavy, and the story is okay, but it like has some real bad pacing issues and stuff like that. And yeah, so like that first season ended. It was good, not great, but exceptionally popular in the mainstream. And then they just kind of like disappeared for four years.
like you do with an anime.
Yeah, like it was exceptionally popular and like everybody loved it. Didn't make the second season for like 4 years. So like all of the hype that it had, like by the time the second season came around, people were just like, maybe I'll check it out. Like it just kind of, people didn't care. And the second season was really good. It was actually really good. It was much slower paced. It was much more story focused and much more character focused. I won't get too deep into that, but the third season is it is fucking nuts. So I should also note that since that time of getting halfway through the first season, I've also been reading the manga. So or I had been. So I've been reading that thing for like 6 or 7 years now, and I'm far ahead of even where the show is now at the end of the third season. And I was telling my friends who like that show for like years, like, yo, if they do this stuff right, that show's going to be fucking nuts, because the stuff it does is really bizarre and really unique. And you can tell that the author, he had everything planned out from like the very first issue, the very first panel. Like literally the first scenes of the first season like play into stuff that's in the manga right now, like 7 years later. And it's not like the kind of thing where like you think Mass Effect 3, where they're just kind of like taking all these little choices you made along the way and just like shoving them in your face to be like, hey, do you remember this? No, it's like, oh no, this stuff is integral. It's really, really, really fascinating and extremely well done. And one of the things I said last week about it in our brief chat was that it's kind of like Nier, in that like the first 2.5 seasons are basically set up for the last half of the third season, which is where the show actually starts. And I think that remains true. And yeah, I won't spoil why it's that way, but I think it's probably going, like, by the end, they've announced that the next season 4 is coming out next year, and it will be the final season. And if they keep up the momentum and they follow like the story as it's been, that's going to be something super special.
Nice. That makes me want to actually take the time to watch it, because I've heard good things about it, but just never taken the time to watch it. So
I watched the whole first season with a few friends, a mix of like anime and varying degrees of anime fan. Like, I'm very much like very casual anime fan. There was one person there that had never really watched any anime, a couple people who had watched a lot of it, more than me. And we loved the first season. Not that I would dispute the stuff you're saying about the first season's problems, but I actually found the second season to be very boring early on. Like, I didn't find the story to be particularly compelling that they were telling in the first few episodes. So I just kind of like fell off. So that's interesting to hear that the second season is so well regarded. I will probably try to go back and watch it again. I think it was kind of a shock to go from, not that I think an anime, like anything needs to be action all the time, but it was kind of a shock to go from how the first season was so like action packed all the time to it feeling like they were like trudging through molasses kind of in the second season early on, like just lots of exposition and lots of like travel. It didn't grab me immediately. And then we watched Kubaneri of the Iron Fortress, which was back to that kind of frenetic action. Not as good, but
so the interesting thing with the fourth season, because like again I'm read up to the current chapter, which came out like earlier this month, and the fourth season, if they follow it to a T and with the same pacing, the first like half of that season is basically going to be slice of life. Like, there's going to be no action. It's going to be complete just talking, which I think it would be really bold for that series.
Yeah.
But is it just like the Titans sitting around like, we're going to go camping?
I'm not going to say anything because it's really...
If it was the Titans sitting around, if we're going to go camping, I would like jump on the show. I
kind of want to spoil it to see if it intrigues any of you, but I also don't want to spoil it because it's fucking so cool.
I mean, if you want to spoil it with enough warning, that's fine. I'll just take my headphones off. But
I want to check it out and kind of experience it. So
if you get to the end of season 3.
Is there a sub? Is there a sub of the show, or is it only dub, or is it only sub? Is there a dub? That's the question.
There's both.
Both on Netflix, I think too.
Well, yeah.
I don't know about.
Last time I tried to watch, there was only subs on Netflix.
Yeah, there's only season 1 on Netflix as well.
Oh,
weird. What?
So,
I think there's more in Japan, but it's not going to have the subs.
Or that's fair. Yeah.
I wonder. So where do you watch it in the US? Is it on Crunchyroll? Okay.
Yeah.
The CR, baby.
But yeah, no. Attack on Titan, extremely good. Really looking forward to the next season. Which again, I'm surprised to say because I thought the first season was fine. I didn't think it was exceptional, but yeah. Anyways, let's go back to a game.
Attack on Titan.
Attack on Titan 2. No. We got for you now is a new game. Just came out relatively recently. And speaking of cats, it is Gato Roboto.
Now there's a cat I can get behind.
So you have played it, Pat?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I played and reviewed it, in fact.
Yep. Andre, you played it at that event however many months ago?
No, I never played it. I just talked to the developer.
Oh, you just talked to them? Okay. I thought you played it too. My bad.
Nope. I've only talked to the developer. I want to play it. It sounds good.
Okay. So it is a straight up, no frills, Metroidvania Metroidvania game. Its hook is the fact that you play as a cat in a mech. And sometimes you can get out of the mech. Sometimes you get into a submarine when you need to go into water because the mech does not like water. The cat doesn't like water very much either, but he'll deal with it. But yeah, no, it is straight up, like I said, a Metroidvania. You get upgrades, you gain abilities that let you go to new parts of the map. The map fills in as you go. It's Metroidvania. The art is neat. It's like kind of a ZX Spectrum looking two-tone art style, and you have the option to pick between different tones. But I don't know. I think, Pat, I don't know about you, but I found the default one to be the best one. Just kind of black and white, high contrast.
I switched between them as I got them, and then just stuck with one for a while. So I kind of rotated. I think I found the Game Boy one to be the one that I ended up liking the most.
It was actually
like
pretty
a
good.
Green one that's really cool.
Yeah. No, I think I finished it. I finished it all in one sitting. Generally, I would say that when that game is firing on all cylinders and it's like working its hardest to bring you the optimal experience that it is capable of, it is okay at best. I would say most of the time it's pretty lackluster. And I think the problem that I had with it is that it doesn't really do anything new. Like, it has that quirky premise, but other than that, it felt pretty uninspired. Like, the humor whiffs a lot. Like, it rarely hits. The story,
I don't think the story or writing is good.
The story is basically non-existent apart from like the last 5 minutes of exposition.
Then the ending is like stupid.
Yeah, the ending is really it's something we'll talk about at the end of the year. But yeah, the gameplay is okay, but not great. The bosses are actively fucking terrible. Like, I
don't know if I go that far.
I hated them. I thought they were awful. They were not fun. They weren't particularly challenging. They just kind of took forever. And if you kind of like lost concentration for a second and make some small errors, then you're just fucked, and you have to go through this like not 10 minute, but really long boss fight over again. Like, let's say the boss has 100 hit points, and in some boss fights you can only use your pea shooter basically, and so every one of your shots takes off half a hit point. That means you have to hit 200 shots to take care of that boss while kind of doing some light bullet hell stuff. So it's not particularly. Bullet hells
hit you die in like 3 hits.
So it's not particularly hard. It's just if you have a lapse in concentration, you take one of those hits, all of a sudden you're like in the red, and it's yeah, I don't know. And like if it's your first encounter with a boss, like they have stages, they'll change patterns, and then so you'll be like halfway through this boss, like 3 or 4 minutes in, and then it changes patterns and you just suddenly die because you're like, oh, well, fuck. Now I have to go through these 3 or 4 minutes again just to see the pattern.
Yeah, they're just too long.
Yeah, they're too long. They're too much hell. Like, the boss is definitely, like, I was feeling this game was probably like a 3 out of 5 if I was to rate it. Those probably took it down to a 2 or a 1. And then the ending brought it back up to a 2. But yeah, I don't know. When I was in the latter half of the game, I'd kind of just stopped caring and just rushed my way through it to get to the end. Like, took hits rather than carefully taking out every enemy on the way, just going to save room to heal up. Like, yeah, the ending was it was well executed. It's also surrounded by a bad boss fight, but whatever. But ultimately, it's a very, very average game that's pulled down to kind of being a bad game by the boss fights and kind of an uninspired design.
See, I felt that the gameplay in between the boss fights was actually like quite good, because I really liked switching between. There's basically 3 different modes. There's like 2 different vehicles. One is your main mech, and then there's a submarine, and then you have to do a fair bit of stuff as a cat. Yeah. And so like when you're working as the cat, it's for the most part all platforming, and if you take 1 hit, you die.
It's the Crew 2 of Metroidvania.
And I really liked the interplay between those 3 different modes. And I thought that I liked how simple the Metroidvania parts of it were. Like, it is a Metroidvania, but it's like a Metroid. It's not really like a Metroidvania because you're not like I mean, you kind of are, but you're not like leveling up. You're not gaining experience points or anything from killing enemies. And I kind of enjoyed that simplicity. It certainly isn't doing anything particularly new, but I would argue that like a game like Bloodstained doesn't really do anything particularly new either. And I was okay with that. But the boss fights are not good. And the story is like not there. I think ultimately the part of the reason I enjoyed it as much as I did was because it is short. If it were a longer game, I think it would get tiring because there isn't like that much going on. It's pretty simple, but I really liked it for the since it's pretty short. The boss fights aren't great. I didn't think they were like utterly terrible, but I just think they were unnecessary. I don't think they really needed to be there. So yeah, I don't know. I certainly wouldn't defend that game super hard, and it's not like one that's gonna. I don't really have much of a reason to talk about it at the end of the year. I don't think.
No, other than the ending.
I thought the ending was bad, so
I thought it was extremely dumb.
Yeah, I didn't understand it really. I mean, like I did, but it's
so having met the developer. That sounds pretty spot on.
One of the first lines in the entire game is that you're going to sector 42069.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
That was kind of funny. I was like, maybe this will be good. That's the only time I laughed at the game, though.
So this game's published by Devolver, and basically one of like the head people at Devolver is just like, oh, you're with those guys? No, those guys are dipshits. Whatever, they can do whatever they want. When they were at like some trade show, so yeah, them labeling an area 42069 makes total sense.
But yeah, I don't know. It's, if you like Metroidvanias, it's one of those. It's short. It's pretty simple. Like, it's no frills, but I find it particularly engaging. Yeah.
Neato.
Let's see. Let's jump back into a not game.
Okay.
I won't take very much time with it. This is a book. One of them things what got words in it, and it is called Someone Who Will Love You in All Your Damaged Glory. And it is a book by one Raphael Bob Waxberg, who is one of the lead writers of BoJack Horseman. It's a collection of short stories, and I would say there are way more hits than misses. Like, it's pretty good. Excuse me. Similar to BoJack, they kind of tend to touch on kind of potentially sensitive topics like depression and loneliness and stuff like that. But in contrast to BoJack, I would say that it has far more happy endings. Or if not happy, then at least like optimistic. So it's really cool to see him writing in a way that doesn't need to be constrained by a somewhat realistic universe. Like, sure, BoJack has anthropomorphic animals in the world, but ultimately nothing particularly fantastical happens in it. Like, it's all pretty rooted in what we know as reality. In this, he's kind of able to stretch his wings and go to some interesting places with it. And I think having that kind of freedom gives him some opportunity to come up with some really unique, clever stories. Like, imagine the sci-fi aspects of Rick and Morty without all the bullshit. Like, he's able to get into some of that. Like, and it's not annoying or like kind of frustrating. It's just clever and good. It's a pretty short read. It's about 250 pages, so you could probably knock it out in an evening, maybe two if you really wanted. Some good wisdom between its covers that I think is worth experiencing, and has some good messages. And one of my favorite things is at the acknowledgments of the end, which has one of the sweetest lines that I've read in a long time. I'll just read it out really quick, which is like, again, acknowledgments, no spoiler for any story. It says, quote, "Finally, I would like to thank my wife. About half of these stories are from before I met her and half since. And I'm convinced that if you line them all up in the order they were written, you could pinpoint the moment where my heart became whole."
Aww.
Which was just so fucking endearing. So it's really good. There's like one or two stories that I was like, but like the rest of them I was like, yeah, that was really good. So worth a read. And the last thing I'll talk
about that one more time.
Someone Who Will Love You in All Your Damaged Glory.
All right.
Yeah, available in paperback, ebook, whatever. And lastly, the last thing I'll talk about, we'll give this about 45 seconds, and that is, let me find the video, sorry, is Steins Gate Elite on the Nintendo Switch. I'm only a few hours in, but I gotta say, the way they've made use of seeing some of the anime and using the original voice actors and everything like that has been really great. It's a super cool way to experience that story. And one of the things that I appreciate is the fact that it has an extremely good UI, like for games like visual novelty kind of things like that. Sometimes the UI makes it. Like, one of the things about Danganronpa that I really liked is their use of really like kind of crazy UI elements and actually making them part of the game, and this does that. And I played the original VN like a decade ago, so like this is a marketed improvement.
Is there any reason to play the visual novel over watch the anime? We've had this discussion before, and I can't remember the answer.
Yeah, Sam finished it, and
yeah,
I think he said he was kind of watching the anime as well. I don't know if he finished it. I haven't asked him, but I think the visual. I don't know. I don't know if there's a recommended way, because the visual novel gets far more in detail about everything.
Okay.
Like
so there's more stuff in the visual novel than in the anime.
Yes.
Okay.
And there are some kind of like diverging paths that you can experience and like kind of go down those rabbit holes in the visual novel that they don't explore in the anime, which is good. But it's a much longer experience.
That's always been the thing about the anime adaptation visual novel thing, where I'm like, but which one do you watch or play, and why? And there's another one that just Clonod, and
Clonod just came out on Switch, didn't it?
Which is like a remake of the old version, which is also the anime is also and so like thoughts are with
Kyoto.
Kyoto. Is it Kyoto Animation Studio?
It is.
Is that what the name? Because they're in Kyoto, but
yes, they also made Cloned. So like I kind of didn't want to talk about that, but holy shit, that's like one of the worst things that's happened in many, many, many years. So
that was so sad.
But the point that I was trying to bring up is like, so that was a visual novel.
Yep.
Then an anime came out of the visual novel, and then they just re-released the visual novel. And I'm like, but why? I don't understand.
Yeah. I have watched the anime. I have not played that visual novel, so I can't really comment on it.
Yeah. And from what I understand, it is basically just the anime.
Yeah. From what I understand as well, having kind of read people's opinions after, is that it follows it pretty closely and doesn't diverge all that much. So I don't. That's just an aspect of visual novel anime adaptations that I don't understand. And like, if Steins Gate is going to do like, oh, well, we're a visual novel, so we have like the space to investigate or, go down different paths, alternate stories or whatever, then, that works, especially with like the nature of that story. But yeah, I think, Allison, this is maybe a thing you should play. Given your love of the nonary games, and your general love of sci-fi bullshit that's kind of weird, I think this is the kind of thing that you might really like.
I love that you described it as sci-fi bullshit, because that is 100% accurate of stuff I like. So I will have to check this out. Yeah.
And it comes with an 8-bit version of it as well. I think it's kind of a separate story, and I'm looking forward to getting into that too. So yeah, Steins Gate. It's good.
Good. Okay, Allison.
Cool. Okay. So should I do my newer game or my older game first?
Do what feels right.
Do what feels right in my heart. Okay. I'll do the newer game, which just came out yesterday, which is Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, which I've been playing on the Switch because you can only play it on the Switch. And I've been really liking it. I wasn't sure if I was going to buy it right away, but I had a tough week, and I did I deserve this type of thing. When I bought it, I was like, I need this game. Treat yourself. Like, I deserve this. And honestly, it was pretty good for that kind of purpose, because it is a fun game. So it's pretty similar. I actually haven't played the other Marvel Ultimate Alliance games, but I was really into the second X-Men Legends game on GameCube back in the day. So this is, from what I understand, it doesn't feel like it's shaking up the formula of these games, basically. So if you've liked Marvel Ultimate Alliance or X-Men Legends games in the past, and you're thinking, I'd like to play that again, play more of that kind of thing, then this is probably perfect for you. If you're thinking, I like the idea, but I want something that kind of elevates it, this might not be that game for you, because it is very much, there are certain points in this game where I'm like, it feels like I'm playing a game from the like mid 2000s in the very best of ways. Like, it's not a bad way, but there are a couple of like weird puzzles that they throw in, and I'm like, or like weird platforming, and I'm like, this feels like it's a GameCube game in a way, which has kind of been fun. But yeah, no, I've been really enjoying it. I'm not terribly far, but they introduce a lot of the characters pretty early on. Like, you start out, like, spoilers for the start of the game, you start out with the Guardians of the Galaxy crew, but you very, very quickly add on others, and each person, like, each character really feels like they play differently. Like, they all feel distinct, even if they're pretty similar characters. So that's been good, and it's actually surprisingly difficult to the point where I actually looked it up online to make sure that it wasn't just me being shit at the game, because I was like, am I dying because I am bad, or am I dying because it's hard? And I'm playing it on the mighty difficulty, which there's only friendly and mighty when you first pull up the game, which which is genuinely pretty hard, and it makes me feel like justified, where I'm like, okay. But that, what that means though is that it's basically not just a straight up button masher. You do need to have some level of strategy. There is some level of dodging enemy attacks and making sure that you're pretty mobile, which has been fun. What else? Yeah, so it's been very good. It feels like a nice kind of, even though it has its difficulty, it does feel like a pretty good podcast type of game, something to just kind of chill out with, which is kind of what I needed this weekend. So that's what it's been pretty perfect for. Yeah, so do you guys have any questions about it, or?
How much does it, like, in terms of character design and stuff, how much does it feel like the MCU movies, or does it feel more like comics, or?
It feels kind of like a mix of both. Like, there's definitely a lot of moments where you're going like, oh yeah, you're going for the MCU. Like, with a lot of the voice acting, and specifically, it feels like they kind of, a lot of them are doing their very, very best to do like their Robert Downey Jr. impression or their Chris Pratt impression. But it's not 100% MCU. For example, one of the my favorite characters in the game so far is Scarlet Witch, who is a beast, and she has her comics outfit, our costume. So it feels like it's definitely aimed at people who are interested in or it's definitely aiming at people who follow the MCU. Like, it's definitely not ignoring that at all, but it's definitely also taking liberties. It's not being completely one for the MCU versus comics. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, the character stuff kind of reminds me of Disney Infinity almost, like, not as, like, I don't know, there was like something, I don't know, more, I don't even know how to describe it.
More Pixar?
Like, they're not as like toy-like as the Infinities. Like, the designs aren't as like toy-like, I guess. Like, there's like similar color palette and like proportions, but I don't know, there's something a little more like detailed, maybe.
Yeah,
like,
no, it definitely has a very cartoony comic book vibe to it, for sure.
I only have one question.
Yes.
How is the Spider-Man?
Spider-Man is fun.
Yeah.
I played with Spider-Man, and then as soon as they introduced Spider-Gwen, I'm like, sorry, Spider-Man, you're off my team.
That's the right choice. Let's be honest.
I think there's benefits to like putting them together on a team, though. I think they have like benefits for different team ups, but
yeah, there's actually like, based off of different team ups, there's a wide variety of like
bonuses
that you can get, for teaming up. So there's a lot of them where, for example, it's like, oh, these characters, I think each character only has like 4 groups that they're attached to, and the more that you have of the same group together, the better bonuses you get. So for example, it's like there are a lot of people where it's like, oh, you're women of Marvel, oh, you're an original Avenger, you're like web slinger, like
you have sensitive nipples.
Word.
Yes. But like there's a wide variety, and like stuff you can play around with that. The RPG kind of elements are pretty light, but there is an element of upgrading attacks and upgrading characters. But yeah, the Spider-Man is good. You can with like, so for movement, you can jump and then you can double jump, and then there are certain characters that can fly. But if you just keep holding the jump button for the spider characters, they will continuously swing around.
Yeah,
and it feels genuinely really good.
Cool. Yeah, that was the way they were in the previous games.
Yeah, and I mean, it's obviously not as good at as like, say, Spider-Man PS4. But I mean, who was expecting that? So
yeah, for sure.
I
think my biggest hesitation with this game is like the first 2. It was hard to find another experience like those games, like whether playing co-op or not. So it was one of those things where I played them both because there weren't a lot of good superhero games, and those were good superhero games. Now I feel like I need more than it being a decent superhero game to enjoy it, like I want there to be some kind of reason. In a way, I kind of want it to be more like Diablo, where there's like a reason to keep playing it and running characters to level them up and like see out arcs with them. So I'm a little hesitant because I have heard that the RPG elements are pretty trivial. Because I don't really care to just play through the story. I don't care about the story because it sounds kind of whatever, like very arcadey, and that's fine. But
it 100% is.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think that's reasonable. And to be honest, I don't know if I would have bought this first day if I wasn't like, I need a game now. But yeah, I think that leveling them more, you get more of their special moves. And I think you might get alternate costumes, although I'm not 100%.
That's the thing I was going to say, is if there is a way that you can play at increased difficulties or something like New Game Plus style, and by doing that you're unlocking cosmetics, I could see that being enough of a hook for me, even if the level is like just a power number where you're getting new special attacks. And
I think that you can unlock new costumes, and there is I know that when you finish the story mode of the first game, then you do unlock a new difficulty level, but I'm not sure if it's like a New Game Plus or if it's just, hey, you can play the game on hard now.
Right.
But yeah, no, everybody, let's see, I just looked this up. You can unlock new costumes, but you have to do the like Infinity Rift like side stuff.
Oh, okay. Well, that's cool though. I mean, that's kind of what I'm looking for. So
like not in the main story, but you just do the side stuff, which also from what I understand is pretty good about leveling your characters, because if you like to play as a wide variety, you might get your characters kind of underleveled, which is a bummer. But you have to apparently reach like, I don't even know. There's a lot of stuff that's poorly explained, I think.
It sounds like there's the stuff that I want in it though. Like it has side stuff that is harder to complete, that gets you stuff. I guess what I'm saying is I don't really care about just playing on a higher difficulty for the sake of it, or just like submitting a leaderboard time. That's not something I'm interested in. I'm more interested in feeling like I want to level each character to the max to get their costumes and abilities and everything. And so given that it sounds like that's kind of there in some capacity, I'll probably pick it up. If Fire Emblem wasn't coming out next week, I would have bought it.
That's honestly the biggest issue, because I know 100% that I'm going to be playing this week, and next week I'm going to be like, well, time to get into Fire Emblem, because everything about the new Fire Emblem sounds like it is immediately right up my alley.
My hope is by the time I have a break where I'm not actively playing something big, that it will have dropped in price, but not holding my breath for it.
It is a Nintendo exclusive now.
It is, but it's one of the ones that I'm the first one to say, like, don't hope for a price drop on Nintendo exclusives. But this one seems like one that could be $40 by holiday.
Nintendo didn't make it, right?
No, Platinum.
Yeah.
Platinum.
So then it'll come
I
down
could
price.
see it being a Black Friday type.
It's totally,
totally.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So I have a quick question.
Yeah.
I know. Is this the kind of game you would play with your sibling? And if so, do you know how it would work for like local 2 players on one console kind of thing? Like, is it kind of like the Lego games in that it splits the screen, or is it just like a straight up split screen? Or
I honestly haven't tried much of the co-op, which I know a lot of people say is where the game shines. I just don't have anybody near me, and I don't really feel like playing online with randos right now.
That'll be my issue too. So,
but I know that you can play. That you can use just one Joy-Con to control it, so you can do local multiplayer with just 2 Joy-Cons. And I'm not sure.
Not if your Joy-Con has the drift.
That's true.
The Joy-Con Tokyo Drift.
No, it's a feature, not a bug. It's Tokyo Drift, but no, it's I don't know if it'd be split screen, or since the camera, like, you can adjust the camera somewhat, but I'm not. But it's mostly like often fixed, especially like in boss battles. I don't know if it would be just split screen or what.
They used to just be you were on the same screen. That used to be how it worked in the older games.
That's what I'm guessing it was what it would be, given some of the camera, and given especially like with the like boss battles, you can see all of the characters on the screen at once, since you can switch between all of them. It's
super linear too, from what I understand.
Totally.
Like it's not like the Lego games have like little pathways where you can go find hidden stuff. So this split screening is kind of necessary to make it feel good. But Ultimate Alliance is like, it really is like an arcade cabinet kind of game to me.
It is
in terms of playing.
Yeah, I could actually see it being an arcade cabinet and like pump some quarters in so that now you can fight Mysterio.
It's kind of like Gauntlet, sort of.
Yeah, it's very much a beat 'em up. There's one point where I went down a different corridor and I got an item, like an XP, a XP boost, and I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting, and that hasn't really happened much since. So it is very, very linear, but to be honest, that's kind of not what I was like. I wasn't expecting it to suddenly be different. So like I said earlier, it is really, I think its enjoyment completely is going to be hinged on if you've liked these types of games in the past, because it's not exactly shaking up the formula very much.
Cool.
Yeah, but no, it's fun. I'm enjoying it. Miss Marvel is also really good. She's super fun. Yeah. So I feel like I'm actively enjoying playing as the female characters, and as like they're pretty good to play as. So I'm like, so good for me. But everybody's pretty fun now.
Hopefully you can play.
Thor's pretty fun too.
Hopefully you can play as Shuri.
I imagine.
No.
Seems like Miss Marvel is going to show up in that new Avengers game in next year.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. She's really fun in this one though. So I'm very pleased that her powers.
Does she get big?
She does. Well, she basically, like, when you punch, your arm gets big, and then her first power is called Embiggen. There is some like decent humor in some of the like descriptions. It doesn't show up that much in the story, like aside from like Spider-Man's gonna quip, But for example, Gwen Stacy's first power title is literally like catchy power name or something like that. I'm like,
Platinum.
okay.
Platinum is clever. They write some clever shit.
I was like,
Vanquish. That's why Vanquish is good.
Oh, yeah, Vanquish is great
because it's so fucking goofy.
So yeah, it was fun. No, it's good. I don't know if I necessarily tell people to buy it, especially since Fire Emblem Three Houses coming out next week.
Yeah, but they're very different games. So.
Right, obviously. I'm just super hyped about Fire Emblem.
Yeah. I think most of us on the podcast are looking forward to Fire Emblem.
And frankly, I'm not saying that people don't exist at all. I'm sure there are plenty of people, but I feel like if you own a Switch, odds are you're someone who is excited about Fire Emblem. Like, that's a pretty major franchise to not care about. Like,
I'm so glad it's become a major franchise, though.
Yeah,
because I definitely. God, this is going to sound like I liked it before it was cool, but I definitely really liked it when I had it on Game Boy Advance. So I'm very happy that Fire Emblem has taken off like it has because I like that series.
And the new one sounds
I'm so excited.
Just outstanding because they added Persona to it. So
I know.
Also, just so you guys know,
Mm-hmm.
I've been sitting on this information for like months, and that is the fact that the original Fire Emblem game came out on 4/20 in 1990. So it's been lit from the start.
Nice.
Yeah. 21 years too late, though.
If only they'd come out on June 9th this year. Oh, well.
Yeah, well. You're right. 6/9 would be pretty good.
I am glad to see that review or like previews are really positive on that game.
Yeah.
I don't know who I'm going to be. I don't know which house to pick.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I think I'm going to just very specifically not choose and then get into the game and just be like, I feel like this house, and then suddenly choose it.
The only one I know is Edgelord.
So,
but yeah.
Wait, so Allison, what's the older one?
Oh,
you had a newer
Slay the
game?
Spire.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I played a little bit of that, and then I had a Run Go Bad at the I think there are 3 floors, right, Pat?
Yeah,
like 3. I was literally on the last boss, and I had a potion that I thought would revive me, but apparently
you have to drink it.
Yeah, you have to drink it to make it work.
That
item wasn't clear.
Trading item in the game. It's
and
not clear.
I would have like finished the run, but then
you would have slayed the Spire.
Yeah, but then the Spire slayed me because poor tooltips.
So Allison, what's the TLDR on what the gameplay is for this?
Okay, so Slay the Spire is basically a deck building roguelite where you choose a character, and as you play the game, you get additional cards and you build up your deck as you fight increasingly difficult monsters. And it's all turn-based, and it's really fun. I waited to buy it on Switch, and to be honest, I know it's such a cliche at this point, but it is really good for Switch because I was at a convention the week before last, and it was really, really nice to have a game where I could just turn on my Switch, do a few turns, and then turn it off if I needed to go do something else. It's really nice. It's a really nice game to have if you don't have a lot of time. And I feel like one of the things that I always like deck building stuff in theory, but the actual act of building a deck before playing a game really kind of stresses me out, especially if it's like, here you have hundreds of cards, pick 30 for your deck. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I don't know. So I like the idea that the idea that you're basically building as you go, and that it's the roguelike element of it, where you're where if you have a bad run, you're just like, well, time to start again, is really kind of freeing in a way. And there are just so many ways that you can make your deck in different ways, especially with the different characters. Even though there's only 3 characters, it still allows for a wide variety of stuff to do. So I've been really enjoying it. It's something that's really nice to have. Nice to have on the Switch and on the go if I'm going to do something and just have that in the background. So totally. I've been really enjoying it, and it's very well could be one of my favorite games of the year at this point, because I'm really into it.
Came out last year, I guess, on Switch this year, right?
Came out this year.
It had an actual release last year, didn't it?
It was early access in 2017, but its actual release was in January of 2019.
Really? Oh.
But,
I'm looking up the Wikipedia.
Yeah, I think it was early access last year, yeah. So
okay.
Would you say it's in any way similar to Solitarica?
Oh, that actually, I pulled up Solitarica on my phone the other day because I was like, didn't have my Switch on me and I wanted to play something similar. It's definitely different, especially since the turn-based aspect of it is not. It's like this, like Solitarica is definitely a different game, but I feel like it kind of scratches a similar itch, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
Where I did, like I said, I didn't have my Switch, and I'm like, I want to play Slay the Spire. So then I pulled up Solitarica on my phone and started to run on that.
Cool.
Yeah, there are definitely different games, especially since Solitarica has the element of, solitaire, but the kind of various deck building and roguelike, increasingly difficult, does kind of get similar. But I am very into Slay the Spire right now, and I need to get better at it because I haven't actually beaten it yet, but I want to so bad.
It's on Game Pass if listeners have that, so you can check that out on PC or console. So that's a good way to check out that game.
Also, the thing that, while I really enjoy it on the Switch, I think it's really fitting for it. The thing that I wish I could have with on PC is the Steam Workshop stuff, because people have come up with some mods, including there's one specific Sailor Moon mod that I would really like to play. I to the point where if it goes on sale later this year, I might genuinely consider it so I can get the Sailor Moon mod.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Real quick, I forgot that I checked out the Lego expansion for Forza Horizon.
Oh, right.
I love it. I was playing that the other night. I also played that.
But you don't have to use the Lego cars.
No.
And that made me go like, oh, it just kind of killed my interest in it. Like, I'll probably check it out some more, but I was like, they kind of recreate the intro to the game, like in like a different style, but like they do with the Lego stuff, and they have like some humor in it. And it's not like the exact same like scenarios, but they kind of do the same thing. Like you're jumping from car to car, going through some scenarios in a race. And then they have like some Lego type gags. So if you're into like the Lego humor, I think you'll appreciate what they've got going there. But then when it was like, okay, here's a Lego car and then do a race. But if you want to compete in this race, you need to use like one of your other regular cars. I was like, oh, well, if I'm not going to be racing against regular Lego cars, then what's the point?
No, you don't need to use one of your regular. I've used a Lego car for every single thing I've done in the game. The
first thing I went to, I was not even remotely competitive like with the speed of my car, it was just nowhere good enough. So
okay, but the way that you just go into the tuning setups and buy a tuning setup.
Yeah, it was just, oh, come on.
But that's just the way the game works, though.
Not racing against other Lego cars. They were all regular
cars. Totally true. But in every aspect of Forza Horizon, as you play it deeper, when you get a new car, stock, it's not really going to be that competitive. You go into the tuning setups and download like someone's tuning setup that they've made, or do it yourself. But so once you do that with the Lego cars, they're fine.
It was mainly just annoying to get in there and go, oh, wait, I'm the only Lego one? Well,
yeah, I mean, I think
disappointing.
The thing is, it's like a $10 expansion or something, $15 maybe. And maybe, I don't know. They just didn't have the budget to rebuild all of those cars as Lego cars.
It doesn't even have to be. It doesn't have to be all of, I'm not saying, oh, you have to remake every car as a Lego car. I'd just like to see, okay, if you're in the Lego area, there's like, there are 12 Lego cars in this race. I don't know how many Lego cars they made. If they only made like 3 Lego cars,
4 or 5,
then like that's
then
that's a little disappointing. But
I liked it a lot. I think I like the thing I like about it is they changed up how you get vehicles.
Yeah.
In the previous expansion, they changed it up a little bit as well. In that expansion, it's like a treasure hunt. So you're finding like spots with a screenshot. And then that's leading you to other spots, which is cool. And then in the Lego world, you are doing challenges on this big grid, and they're anything from like race from this point to this point in 2 minutes, or complete this event, win this event, get 3 stars at this speed trap, whatever. And you get bricks. And then as you get a certain number of bricks, you unlock a new thing, which I find really fun because it's like totally just like a checklist of stuff to do, which is I find that very entertaining. But I can see if you were expecting it to be like fully Lego everything, then that could be disappointing. It didn't really bother me because it just seems like that would be them making a different game at that point.
Like, I don't even mind, like, if you want to take regular like cars in there, and like I can understand it was just like a bummer to go like, oh yeah, this is really cool, like Lego stuff, and then the first race I go into, I'm like, oh, everyone else is a regular car.
I think
and it kind of ruined the magic.
From my perspective, I wouldn't want them to make everyone the same Lego car as you.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And they clearly didn't have the budget or time to make enough different Lego cars to make everyone, because like they're different classes. Basically, like there's a car for every class. So you get like this Mini Cooper Lego car, you get a Ferrari. There's like a GT40 or something. So they're kind of like different classes of cars. So it wouldn't work for them to put the Lego Ferrari against the Lego Mini Cooper. So it's tough. I mean, one thing they could have done is made it like fewer cars that you're racing against. They could have made it all time trials or something, all like more adventure stuff. So there's maybe other things they could have done, but I was not particularly surprised when I got into it, and it was like mostly similar to other expansions, just with some Lego environmental stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The weirder thing to me that was sort of more disappointing is a strong word, but that was kind of like oh, okay, is the fact that there's like Lego environments and non-Lego environments kind of mixing together, where you have like the city is all Legos.
Yeah.
And then there's Lego trees and stuff there. But then when you drive out to the countryside area, it's like, it looks like normal Forza Horizon 4. There's like just normal trees and stuff. It's not like Lego trees everywhere, which was a little jarring to me. And I thought was a little weird, but at the same time, I think I maybe would not enjoy it if I was driving those cars around a fully Lego environment all the time too. Because I could see that getting very like, I don't know, weird in terms of like the road structure and stuff that would be in place with Legos. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But I've enjoyed playing that expansion a fair bit.
I'll get back to it. It was just one of the first, like I built a new PC, and that was the first kind of thing I tested out, and I didn't need to set my CPU priority to high. So, I think we're good. But what have you been playing, Pat?
A few things. So I won't talk super long about it, but I have been playing. I finished The Sinking City last night. I really, really like that game. I'm going to have a full review of it. I'm kind of grappling a little bit with how I'm going to score that because it's a, I think it's a game that it reminds me, I'm going to be very careful with this because it's not like it's like this game in terms of the way it plays and stuff really, but it reminds me a little bit of Deadly Premonition in that, it has some jank, not as much jank as Deadly Premonition, nowhere near as much, but it has some jank, but there's a certain charm to the story. Charm is a weird word to use too, because it's very dark, but the story is just very, very well told, and it's very thought-provoking to me in a way that I find extraordinarily appealing. And I think the elements of it that are not as good are not bad necessarily. Like the shooting combat in it, there's a lot more of it than I would like there to be, but it's not terrible. It's not, when you first do it, all you have is a handgun and you get in a fight with some enemies and it takes like 3 bullets to kill the weakest enemy and you only have 5 of them in your inventory and there's 2 more enemies left. You go like, oh, this sucks. Doesn't feel very good. But after a while, like by the midpoint of the game, the combat's not that hard. And it starts to feel a little bit more like kind of Resident Evil-y in a way, in that you have limited ammunition, but you have enough to deal with the situation. But you need to be very precise and pretty on point to get through it too. And then by the end of the game, it becomes fairly trivial. And I just kind of wish that maybe that arc was a little more like they got you to the sweet spot faster and then it stayed there for the rest of the game rather than becoming trivial. But again, that's like a fairly minor complaint. The RPG stuff at first feels kind of dumb because it doesn't feel like the bonuses you're getting are that impactful, but they kind of are. As you play, you start to realize that. But the big thing about that game is just like, it's really fascinating to explore the world. The world is extremely well designed. And the characters are fascinating. And they just did a really good job with kind of warping a lot of the tropes of Lovecraft's storytelling from a substantive perspective. From an aesthetic perspective, it very much just is that. But from a substance perspective, like so much of Lovecraft's work is stories about how he was terrified and xenophobic of like people that were different from him. And so he turned those people into monsters. Whereas what The Sinking City does is it examines how monstrous people like Lovecraft are and were, but are, and seeks to like ask whether it's worth perpetuating an existence that those people are in. So it's like Lovecraft was like, maybe it would be better if the world got destroyed because I don't want to talk to a black person. Whereas Sinking City is like, yo, racists fucking suck and they're always around. Maybe we should just end it all. That's kind of like the core premise of that game. And it's sort of asking those questions. And I find that's just a really compelling story. It's like a, I wouldn't say I grapple with it at that level of the like destroying humanity level, but it is a question that I find myself struggling with, where like, do I have faith in humanity because we have such awful people in the world versus like the good that exists? So it was just really cool to see that told through an aesthetic lens that I really appreciate, and to kind of warp because I really enjoy the aesthetic elements of that sort of Lovecraft's work, but obviously deplore his message. So it was neat to see that subverted, and it's subverted through like just genuinely good investigation gameplay, adventure game gameplay, and the choices that they ask you to make are really, really solid too. They remind me of The Witcher in a lot of ways, because it sort of gets away from the typical, oh, it's a dark world, so everything shades of gray. It's not like well, do you let a child molester go or do you let a murderer go? It's not like dumb choices like that. It's much more nuanced. Like, this person framed you, committed murder, but it was because they were blackmailed. So do you turn them in, or do you plant evidence on the shitty politician so that he takes the fall, even though he didn't necessarily do anything wrong? And that's like, those kind of questions are like actively very interesting and kind of made me think like, well, shit, what would I do? So I thought that stuff was really, really well done too. So I don't know. It ended up being one of my favorites this year for sure, but it's very much a me thing. And I think kind of more of a niche audience will respond to it that positively. I think most people will probably go, it's okay. But I don't know that I have I know a lot of people that I would recommend it to, just because there is sort of a layer of jank on it, and it deals with themes that I don't know a ton of people who are interested in exploring them, I guess. I will say they make a pretty clear statement about, like, one of the things the game does that is a little weird about is they claim that they're like showing the times for what they are in terms of like them being racist and stuff, people being racist. But for the most part, that racism isn't perpetrated against human being, like normal humans, like people of color. There's a lot of people of color in the game, and they're all like just kind of they're not like subjected to lots of prejudice. They're police officers, they're professionals, they're doctors, they're lawyers, they're whatever, which is kind of, and the reasoning narratively for that racism not really existing in this town is because there are the fish people there, and basically all the racists moved on from hating like people of color to hating the fish people. Mm-hmm. And I think it's an interesting thing for them to do, because Austin Walker talked about this in reference to Mafia 3. Like, it's important to show racism of the time to a degree when you make period pieces like this. But at the same time, it kind of sucks if you are a person of color approaching the game to like hear slurs for the whole game and hear people being denigrated and treated like shit for the whole game. So it's an interesting way for them to sort of, like, the KKK is in this game, but they don't go after like any real life minorities in the game. They're going after the fish people, because it turns out that they also like naturally hate the fish people. So it's sort of an interesting way for them to show that racism without making you listen to like horrible slurs and speech and discrimination for the whole game. I think that some people will probably react to it differently and find that it's a cop-out and that they're not really grappling with the issues that they claim to be. And I think that that's fair. It struck me differently than that. I really liked that tone. I also like the part where there's a part where you're in combat with the KKK, and at the end of it, there's like a dude just in the corner who's injured, not from your fight, and you can absolutely just like pop him and kill him, which sort of put me in like okay, they know what they're doing. This is not like let's show the humanity behind this group of awful people. This is they're the bad guys, which I appreciated. But yeah, so I don't know. I really liked it, but I don't know that everybody will.
I want to check it out. Like the sound of it. It sounds like it, reminiscent of like Vampire, and like with the exploring and the solving stuff. So maybe more involved in like the investigation stuff. But
yeah, so I said yesterday that I didn't think anyone on this show would like it, but I actually think, given that you liked Vampire, you might like it a lot, because it's definitely the closest game that I've played to it is Vampire for sure. If you and I think the combat in Sinking City is better than it is in Vampire. So
I like that, and that's also not why you come to these games.
Exactly,
So.
But that was my big sticking point with Vampire, is I really didn't like the stealth and combat sequences. There is no stealth in Sinking City whatsoever, and the combat is better than it is in Vampire, I think. Largely because it's all shooting, and the shooting is like feels a little like spongy early on, but it's not bad mechanically. Like it works. It feels like you're playing just a basic third-person shooter. So yeah, so I think you might like it more than most of the folks on the show.
Yeah, I know Alex is like not into the Lovecraft stuff. I am intrigued by it. Like, I'm not super deep into it, but I can appreciate some staring into the abyss and the abyss stares back.
I think it's a solid enough PI story about corruption and like and xenophobic communities too, that even if you're not interested in Lovecraft, you could really get into it. I just think if you actively dislike the aesthetic, you're going to have a tough time, because it is steeped in that. Like, it is that for the whole ride. It doesn't ever pull that back. So but anyway, that game is fun. I'll probably talk about it more next week, because I'm gonna get into it a little bit more this week. But I also have been playing Formula One game, F1 2019, the Codemasters racing game. Because in the past week, like, I don't know what clicked for me, but I decided I wanted to go from sort of casual fan who checks the standings and watches highlights sometimes of Formula One to trying to actually watch the races. And that's been really fun. Turns out that I'm super into that world. It's really, really intriguing. The part of it is because I like the folks at the Shift F1 podcast so much, which is Rob Zachney, Danny O'Dwyer, and Drew Scanlon. That podcast is great, and it's a great introduction to Formula One racing. They make it super accessible. And that was kind of my biggest barriers. I always thought it was too complicated for me to get into, but with them as kind of a guide, it's really helpful. So anyway, I started playing F1 2019 kind of as a way initially to just sort of be able to learn the tracks a little bit, and sort of see them in first person, so that I kind of know how some of the ins and outs of how they work. That game is like extraordinarily good. It is definitely not a game for anyone who's not interested in very specifically Formula One racing. Like, it's not going to draw in a casual racing fan into that world, but that game is one of the best sports games I think I've ever played, because it manages to make all the parts of the race weekend interesting. Because one of the things about Formula One is that the race weekend actually starts on Thursday, I guess, prior to the race on Sunday, because there are 3 practice sessions where
That's
drivers
more time racing or like preparing for the race than not.
Absolutely, yes. The races are only about an hour and a half to 2 hours long, which is another thing I didn't really realize before getting into it more. They're actually very watchable, because they're not.
It's not NASCAR. It's not 500 laps.
Nope. It's shorter races. They do 50 laps usually around that. And so they're much more watchable. They are on very early on West Coast time, but it's worth it to me. But the thing about it that I didn't really realize, I always thought of like, practice, whatever. You drive around the course a few times and just these guys know it already. But when they're practicing, they're doing so much, because the drivers are practicing their lap times, getting them dialed in for qualifying on Saturday, but they're also like testing things on the car, doing very minute adjustments to individual parts. And it's helping their pit crews get dialed into like the specific environment that they're working in. And the thing that's so cool about F1 2019 is it models that stuff. So you start off in practice 1 with a 90-minute timer, and there's 3 you can set it how you want. You don't have to play it all if you want to shorten the weekend. But like, just to get the full experience, I tried setting up a career with the full experience on. I'm probably going to restart it at some point, but so like you'll go into practice 1 and it'll be like, okay, so here's objectives we want you to complete. There'll be like cornering objectives where you have to practice specific corners. There'll be things where it's like, we need you to hit speed in the straights this time. So it makes like the practice session super engaging, and then it turns into bonuses, but they're not just like, well, now you drive faster. It's like little things like, okay, so we found that if you go into the car setup and adjust the downforce on the front wing, then it's going to be more effective in these conditions or whatever. So it kind of gives you like mechanical tips for how to effectively set up your car. And then when it comes to the actual racing, the strategy is really cool because like you have to pit at least once. So there's pitting strategies, there's tire strategies as to when you're going to use which tires. And then there's all kinds of stuff in the career mode for thinking about like, you can only have so many engines and gearboxes and stuff. So like if you break certain parts, you can just be out for the season because like the rules say you can't swap the engine out or whatever. So it just models all this stuff in a really cool way. There's other R&D stuff around the between the races and stuff. And then it does also have a kind of semblance of a story too, which is a little, it's pretty good. You start in Formula 2 racing, which is like the minor leagues for Formula 1, which they also have. You can play a full Formula 2 season if you want to. But you start in Formula 2, you kind of develop a relationship with a rival, and then you both go to Formula 1. It's lighter than like something like Long Shot. It doesn't have that kind of, from Madden, it doesn't have that kind of like, this is like a movie feel. But it pops up now and then, and it is clever. So anyway, that game is very, very good. If you have a passing interest in Formula 1, it's definitely worth trying. It is extremely hard, I would say. I'm trying to play it on the like medium difficulty, and I cannot get more than 10 laps before I spin out and like ruin my whole race.
It sounds like you need a racing wheel.
Yeah, I was looking at some stuff. I am going to buy a racing wheel again at some point. I had a racing wheel for a very long time. I just didn't bring it with me when I moved because it was like 15 years old. Not that old, but I do want to get another one at some point. The Logitech G920 is a good wheel, and it's like a couple $100. I was looking though at this one guy because I was thinking about picking up their Dirt 2.0, the Codemasters rally game. There's a guy who does content, and he has us like his pedals are 1,000 pounds. I mean, like they're British pounds, 1,000 British pounds. Wait, sorry, 1,000. So like $1,200 or whatever.
Yeah.
Just for the pedal block, and his wheel is like $1,200, and that's just the wheel part. Then you have to buy the mount, which has the force feedback motor in it, which is like another. His setup is like $10,000. You could almost buy a race car for what?
Yeah, wait, why? What?
It is awesome, and if I had that kind of money lying around, I would totally buy it. but no. I do not.
Does he have like a Ferrari wheel? Like what kind of bullshit is what?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's basically like a real steering wheel that you mount.
Is it like the actual like F1 wheel that looks like
he was using a round wheel, so not an F1 style wheel. But the place his wheel came from, they do sell F1 style wheels also. F1 style wheels are crazy because there's F1 is like the closest thing to Mario Kart that exists in real life because they have a system called DRS, which is if you're less than a second behind, maybe it's a second and a half, but less than a second or a second and a half behind someone when you come into certain zones in the track, you can hit a button on your steering wheel and it'll open your rear wing, which gives you a little bit more speed. So it's kind of like a boost so that you can overtake someone. And so there's a lot of strategy built around that. Like you don't necessarily want to pass someone right before a DRS zone because then they're just going to be able to DRS and pass you again. And then there's also a system called ERS, which stands for Energy Recovery System, where whenever you brake, there's like an alternator that translates the kinetic energy of you going fast into electrical energy, and then you spend that energy as you go around the track to accelerate. There's like a passive ERS that comes into play where it's like always helping you, but you can push a boost button and then it's like nitrous and it like boosts.
Wait, I thought that was part of Formula E.
Nope, that's a Formula One thing.
Okay, so then I guess the Formula E thing is like the fan boost, where like right?
Yes, then that's like all electric.
The people vote, like the people watching get to like give out a boost.
I'm not sure they still do that, but that was a thing.
That was a thing.
Yeah,
esports, baby.
Yes. Recently, too, funny thing, a Formula One driver, I think it was in a GT car, not a Formula One car, but a Formula One driver was beaten on a real track in a GT car by an esports driver who they stuck in the cockpit of a real car. and told them to race. Like I think it was at some endurance race, IMSA race or something. It was a real race, like it wasn't staged. And they put this like fake car driver, but because cars like auto simulation is so good now, and I'm sure it's not the first time he had been behind the wheel. Like he did the practice and everything. But he came up by being a esports driver rather than. So it's very exciting because like drivers right now, to be a Formula One driver, you have to be very wealthy from the time you're born, basically, because becoming a professional driver is like you go into kart racing when you're 6 years old, and then you kind of progress through different kinds of cars until you hit that pinnacle. But it means that like there's the driving families are all dynasties that have like that are all like million and billionaires. But it's kind of cool because like now esports driving is becoming good enough that one of the cool things about Formula One is the Formula One teams and the organization is they don't necessarily discriminate against where you come from. It just so happens that the easiest pathway is to be rich, but like they don't care. A team will hire a phenomenal esports driver if they're extremely good on the track. Also, they don't require you to be wealthy. It's not like you need those connections to be a driver if you're good. So it's kind of cool. Anyway, auto racing is neat. Formula One is very neat. The last thing that I have though to talk about is a game from Valve set in the Dota universe.
Artifact. Dota 2.
Dota 2.
Dota 3.
It may as well be like Dota. No, that's not true. It's not like Dota really at all. I've been playing
Tactics.
Dota Underworlds. I don't know. They can solidarity with workers at Riot, but they can fucking clean up their house before I'm willing to ever put another piece of their software on my computer. Anyway, the Dota Underworlds. I keep saying Underworlds, but it's Underlords. Dota Underlords is like a really interesting game that has kind of taken over my house. My partner and I are both playing a fair bit of it, and I'm very into what they're doing. That it's a cool. I thought that it was stupid. I was an Andre for a while. I thought this auto chess fad was dust in the wind, dumb junk. Nothing special, but now that I see past the part where I thought it was just a slot machine where you put your slot machine gotchas out on the board against another person, it's actually like got a lot of strategic depth and is just fast paced enough to be like in the sweet spot between playing something like Hearthstone and playing something like Dota. And I'm really into it. Have you played it at all, Alex? I know you said you were kind of interested in getting into it at some point.
No, I haven't actually given it a shot yet. It looks super neat, but yeah, I haven't given it the time yet.
Cool. I think the thing that like I went, and started to pay more attention to it. I played a couple of games where I just sort of played it like a slot machine and tried to like combine guys because that's kind of how it works. For those who aren't familiar, you're playing on a chessboard. Every round you have the opportunity to recruit characters. There's about 60 of them from Dota in it so far. And when you recruit them, they're 1-star. When you get 3 1-star characters, they can combine into a 2-star character. When you get 3 2-star characters, they can combine into a 3-star character. Characters have different bonuses based on their affinities. So like there'll be like a human assassin. And if you have 3 assassins on the board, it might trigger this effect. But if you have 3 humans on the board, it might trigger this effect. But there aren't 3 different human assassins, and you can't use the same human assassin for more than 1 point towards those things.
Right. So you have to would like a phantom assassin and I don't know who's another assassin from that game. Like
I'm trying to think. Anti-mage might be.
Okay, sure. Sniper.
Sniper is considered a ranger. Then you get into the characters having specific abilities. So they pull one of their abilities from Dota over to them. So like Drow Ranger is a ranger, and she gives everyone within 1 tile plus 10% attack speed, I think.
Okay.
So if you stack up 3 rangers around her in the back, then they're all shooting faster. That's they get their ranger bonus, which I don't remember what the ranger bonus. I think they're called hunters, actually. I don't remember what the hunter bonus is off the top of my head. I'm still kind of memorizing all of those things. But the Underlords, one of the things that's great about Underlords is it makes it very easy to see that stuff. It surfaces that stuff very clearly. Mm-hmm. It has a really good UI, so it's helpful in learning all those things. And then there's loot rounds where you fight monsters, and you get items out of it. They go from very basic, like this unit has +10 armor, to like pretty wild in some of the strategies you can build around them. And then you fight other people. And as you fight other people, based on whoever, basically like you send your army to someone else's board and someone else is sending their army to your board. Mm-hmm. And you can click around and watch all the battles happening. And whenever you lose on your board, you take damage based on how many enemies survived. And you start off with 100 health. When you're at 0 health, you die, you lose. Where the game starts to get interesting is things like there is a shared pool of randomized characters. So there's almost like a blackjack deck at the middle. So it pulls a certain number of characters from each tier. So every game, there's going to be a different set of characters available to everyone, and everyone is buying from that same pool. You're dealt 5 characters from that pool, but if you look at somebody else's board and see, oh, they're trying to get a 3-star Bloodseeker to proc a assassin ability, I think he's an assassin, and a human ability. So I'm going to start buying the Bloodseekers because I don't want them to have access to them. But that's also taking up space in my inventory that I'm not using to level up my own characters. So you have to start thinking about that kind of stuff. And it gets very fun then when you're looking around the board at what other people are buying.
That's cool.
When a person dies and is out, their characters go back in the pool. So that creates some variance as characters are eliminated. So you have to kind of watch what everyone else is doing. And again, there's great UI for that. You can just hold tab and it slides out a tray that shows like icons of what everybody has on the field and on their bench. And then like their win-loss record and their affinities that they've triggered. And then from there, like it just creates this really interesting back and forth because you don't necessarily want to win all the time. I don't know yet how your record affects your matchups, but I believe like you have a harder time if you're kind of at the top of the board. So you kind of want to be in the middle of the pack and then make certain plays with purchases to jump up and like stay around.
Interesting. So it's kind of like Tetris 99.
A bit, yeah. It does have a bit of a like battle royale feel in the sense that you're only playing with 10 people, so it's not like the same, but you feel good if you come in fourth, you know, like it's not like if you lose, it's not like Dota where you put 40 minutes into a match and then you ended up losing. So what was the point? It's like you put 30 minutes, the matches are down to about 30 minutes a piece now. Put 30 minutes into a match and you came in third and you triggered a really cool board and like you had all these cool synergies. My favorite one so far that I've had was, and I got to remember. So So there's I think they're called Bloodseeker or Bloodbounds, but it's Ogre Magi is one. It's one of his affinities. And the way they work is it's a 2-part proc. So if you get 2 Bloodbound guys on the board, whenever a Bloodbound unit dies, all other Bloodbound units get plus 100% attack damage, which seems very powerful, but there aren't that many I think there's only like 3, maybe 4 Bloodbound units that exist in the game. So it's strong, but like you're pretty limited in what your board looks like if you do that. However, in the first 2 loot rounds, I happened to get an item called Bloody Contract, which you put it on a character and then they become a Bloodbound unit. So all of a sudden I could have 2 more Bloodbound units that are not normally Bloodbound units. So I started just dominating because I had like 5 units on the board. 3 of them were naturally Bloodbound. 2 of them were from this contract item. So basically anytime one of my people died, the other 4 got twice as powerful. And then when one of them died, it stacks. So when one of them died, the remaining 3 got twice as powerful again. So it just created this board that I was unstoppable. Like my units, they physically grow in size when you trigger that particular ally ability to show it. So I had like a Nature's Prophet that was like taking up half the screen by the end of fights because he was so big because he had gotten like plus 2,000 attack damage or whatever. But then in the end of it, I still ended up losing because someone else had a crazier, better combo. So I came in third. So those kind of things are just really fun, and they change every time. And it feels kind of like playing a card game where you're building your deck as the game progresses instead of just building a deck and hoping the numbers go your way. And because everyone else is kind of on the same playing field, even though there's randomness to the way that the characters are dealt, it doesn't feel unfair. I've never played a game where I felt like, oh, that person just got really lucky and that's why they won. It's always been like, oh, that person just played the hand they were dealt better than me. So I really like it. They're prototyping a battle pass right now. Their cosmetics are okay. They have different boards, which is cool. But otherwise it's like banners and stuff. So we'll see how long the legs are from a like battle pass perspective, but it's a very, very cool game. And I hope that it continues to go well for them. They've been really agile in terms of updating and balancing also. So
yeah, it seems like they've been very un-Valve-like in that way. Yep. And like keeping people actually involved and being like, hey, this is what we're doing, rather than being
From the people I've seen tweeting and talking about it, it sounds like they pulled most of the Artifact team and put them on this game. Not in a bad way, like in a like Brad Muir worked on Artifact, like these are smart people. They just had Artifact's problems are not necessarily in its game design. It is that people didn't want the game. It's not that it's a bad game. It's that people just didn't want it. I think that's really where it's failing is that like, because I liked Artifact a lot. I still like Artifact. You just can't get a match anymore, so I don't really play it. But there were not enough me's out there to keep it popular. And then the fact that it wasn't free to play and that it didn't have very solid progression was hard for people to deal with, I think. I hope it finds second life too. Like I'm kind of hoping that they relaunch it down the road as a free to play game and sort of rethink how they monetize it, and that will be successful for them.
Artifact in second life.
Artifact Underlords.
But I recommend Underlords. It's cool too. There's cross-account progression between phone, mobile, and PC. And what's nice is you can get battle pass experience through playing the highest difficulty of bots. Oh, cool. And the bot games on phones save. So you can save and quit a game. So you can play like 10 minutes of a match while you're like waiting for a bus, and then come back to it later and get battle pass XP for playing that match, cool. Which is a nice solution to the like games take too long for a mobile device problem.
Yeah, for me, that's the reason. I'm just like, I don't
totally
have
valid
that time to put into that. Like if I was going to play that, I'd want to sit down on the PC, but then I'd probably rather play something else.
That was my thought.
Yeah.
Originally, that was my thought too, but I think it is engaging enough when you start to understand the mechanics better for it to make sense as like a game you sit and play for half hour. I certainly would rather play this game right now than any of the like competitive card games I usually play on PC. This is filling that niche for me, and I'm kind of enjoying it more because it feels more level. The playing field feels so level every time you start a game. Since there is no sort of like Dota, there is no everything is there. Like you don't need to, there's cosmetics and stuff, but you don't need to spend any money on it to get access to the exact same stuff that your opponent has, which is really cool.
Neato. Is that all for you today then?
Yeah, that's it.
All right. I have actually one last question about it. Are there any characters that just seem like way OP, overpowered? Because what I've seen people tweeting about Teamfight Tactics, the League of Legends variation on this, and apparently Draven is just like busted.
There's nothing that I think is like super, super busted. Definitely like Kunkka seems pretty good. He does a lot of damage. Medusa seems pretty good.
Sounds like Dota.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say
it seems pretty fair.
Yeah, I think so. One thing, again, like as you start to understand the game just a little bit, when you see a Kunkka, even if it doesn't really fit your strategy, the response is, well, I need to buy that so somebody else can have it. Mm-hmm. And when everyone starts doing that, it becomes very hard to level up your Kunkkas because like everyone has one. So it kind of mitigates that because a 3-star Drow Ranger is going to kick the shit out of a 1-star Kunkka every single day. So it kind of balances itself by once you are playing in leagues with, like, as you kind of climb the ladder ranking, everyone starts to go like, well, I know this character is good, so I'm going to buy it so nobody else can have it. Mm-hmm. The other nice thing that they do, I think some stuff is very underpowered. Like there's an elusive alliance that is like they get better. They can like evade attacks if you have multiples of 3 of them. I don't think it's very good. I played an elusive board once and it sucked. I got like the shit kicked out of me. But I tried it because I had a daily challenge to evade a certain number of attacks. So the way they use the daily challenges to kind of get you to try different stuff is kind of cool. If you're interested in kind of leveling up your battle pass. So that part's kind of neat.
Okay. Cool beans.
Allison, I just discovered something.
What?
On Steam, they just released the latest chapter of Higurashi.
Hey!
Anyways, sorry.
No, you're good.
It's been like, over a year since the last one?
I think so. Yeah, it just released yesterday.
Nice.
Well, that is going to do it for episode 79 of the Gaming Fyx podcast. Thank you for joining us. As always, you can like, comment, subscribe. I get on whatever podcast application of choice. Stitcher, Podcatcher, is that one of them? I don't know.
Yeah. If you can honestly
Fyx.space.
You can honestly say the name of a podcast app, and I'd believe you that it's a podcast app.
Yeah, probably. Tell your friends, tell your parents. Number 1 podcast with moms in the known universe. And we will be back next week with more video game action. Probably a lot of Fire Emblem talk. So
probably, yeah.
I'm so excited.
If you want to hear all about Fire Emblem, okay, I think we have to coordinate as a group. So we all pick like a different house.
Sam and I are picking the same house. Well, I keep saying that to myself, and then I think about the.
I'm going in 100% blind, so.
Well, yeah. I just the only house I know right now is Edgelord, and I don't know if they're the one I want to pick.
I don't know which one Edgelord is.
It's the one that looks like it says Edgelord, but it's different. But it looks like it says Edgelord.
Okay.
But that's all I know about it.
I wasn't sure if you were making such an obvious base joke, or
no. It is a very base joke, but
I had the same thought when I saw the house names, though.
Like, damn. Yeah. So that's gonna do it for this episode. Like I said, you can find me on Twitter at COOLSL4W. And you can see some reviews. I've got one going up this week for Kill la Kill If. I played a little bit of that with some local multiplayer. We'll see as I start to write up my thoughts about it. Pat, where can people find you?
Find me at PJC Plays.
All right. And Allison?
Find me on the Twitter at WRITERSERENYTY with all that amazing cats tweets.
Okay.
Actually, I don't know if I've even made any cats tweets.
Well, now you've promised the people, now you've got to deliver. Alex, where can people find you?
Wandering the streets, looking at dog gifts.
Oh, wow. I would have expected cat gifts for you, but okay. That's, you've made a good choice, I believe. So that's going to do it for us. Thanks for joining us. We will see you, or you will hear us next week. Goodbye, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.